Texas home buyers, how do you end up not getting stuck with a big commission bill at the point of sale? So we're going to talk in this video is the paperwork in Texas, how the buyer's agreement works, and how the contract purchase agreement works in Texas, and how ultimately commission is negotiated, keeping you, the buyer, in control the whole way through. There are two contracts that we're going to be reviewing today to make sure that you understand how commission is negotiated between you and the buyer's agent. And then second of all, how commission is negotiated as to who pays that in a transaction with a seller. So if you want the seller to pay that commission, how would you do that? So the first document here is the buyer's representation agreement. You need to have one of these signed with your agent if you're going to have a buyer's agent helping you. They'll go then and help you show properties, negotiate properties, etc. When it comes to making an offer, we'll be using this contract. This is a 1-to-4 family residential contract. And I'll come back to this to explain some terms in there. But again, we're only focusing on source of payment for this commission. There are other terms in both of these contracts that are important for you to understand. So for here, the parties would be you, the buyer, right here, the client, and EXP, the broker. In this case, this is our broker that we work with. So in here, we see the broker's compensation in paragraph 7. It says, when earned and payable, client, that would be the buyer, owes the broker the complete amount that apply. And you may have a percentage of commission that's written in here or a dollar amount of commission that is owed here. And then if you look at this, of course, it says the buyer owes everything, but it's important you read the entire paragraph with all of the points because all of the points apply to this compensation. So in source C, it says source of payment. Broker may receive compensation from seller, landlord, or their agents. Broker will credit any such compensation towards compensation due broker under this agreement, and client will pay any remaining balance. In Texas, it's required that an agent, if they're receiving any compensation in any way related to your transaction, they must disclose the source of that compensation to you and that there is an agreement where they will receive compensation. And so this is why compensation is discussed in the contract, the purchase contract, which we're going to bring up here. So anytime you go buy a property, all of this is disclosed exactly on this contract, how that agent shall be paid, okay? So in here, if you want, as a buyer, to make sure that you're protected and that the seller will cover your buyer's agent commission so you don't get stuck with that, this is where you would do this. Of course, you're going to have your standard terms in here, who's in the party, what property is it at, what price is that property. But then when you go down to page 6, there's a section 12 in here, and this is where it talks about compensation. This is where you would negotiate and you would write in here that a seller is going to pay compensation. It says in here, the following expenses must be paid at or prior to closing. This is really important here. Section 1 says, seller shall pay for the following expenses. And A, B, and C all apply. So 1 is liens. For example, if they have a mortgage on the property, that must be paid off. Number 2 here, the following amount must be applied to the brokerage fees that the buyer has agreed to pay. This contract knows that the buyer's agent agreement requires the client to pay the compensation. So it's saying that the seller shall pay for the fees that the buyer had agreed to pay. And that's where you will put the same percentage or same dollar amount that you have in that agreement in this paragraph. That means at closing, the seller shall have to pay for those things, and you, the buyer, are off the hook for paying those things. That's how you protect yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to walk you through in more detail.